You know, if there's such a thing as a decorating guru, Debbie Travis could be called it. She is literally a household name. Get it? See what I did there?
Okay, please wait downstairs.
I know it's terrible, but the fact is home decor is a huge business, and Debbie is a big participator in that. You know all those decorating shows you see on television? Well, 15 years ago, Debbie created one of the first, called Painted House.
Today we'll come to the fireman's rescue.
Painted House, you recall, ran for 13 seasons and helped to spark an explosion of those shows because Debbie made decorating fun and showed people at home, look, you don't have to be a designer to do this. And Debbie should know, she doesn't actually have any formal design training. She went to art college, fashion model, and took all of that and turned it into a design empire. We're talking hit TV shows.
Check your ego at the door.
4 Gemini Awards, 8 best-selling books, and a home decor line. Not to mention appearances on The Hour. Ms. Debbie Travis. Oprah, Regis and Kelly.
I think you did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
And E.T.
The fabulous Debbie Travis.
Now she's got a new show on CBC called All for One with Debbie Travis, and Debbie travels across the country to reward local heroes with an incredible home renovation. But here's the twist.
I didn't do this.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't do it. These guys did everything.
She shows up alone, so the local community has to get the job done in 5 days.
We thought you really deserved like a real sweet.
Oh, my...
Everybody, please welcome to the program, Debbie Travis. Hi, miss.
I'm good. A little jet lag.
You're jet lag. You just flew in for this. We really appreciate that. There's been this real evolution in shows, especially make it yourself, do it yourself shows, becoming more community based. And I'm just curious to you, where community comes from. Where does that sense of community come from?
Well, community, you know, to me is a very important thing, especially through coming to this country and not knowing anybody. So what I did, you know, when I kind of started working and having kids and stuff, was I created my community, was literally among the 8 houses on my street, mostly working girls, and we would support each other. Like my next door neighbor is a surgeon. Like, she thinks her job's really important, but, you know, she'll actually...
Oh, what with her saving lives and all that.
She cannot decorate, save anybody's life. But she'll call me up and say, you know, in the middle of my day, because I don't have an important job, she'll say, oh, listen, I'm stuck in surgery, can you pick up my kids? You know, but laughing aside, you know, we help each other, and we're all there for each other, you know, in this crazy world of working mums. So that was that community. And then also when I grew up, I was from a small village where in a lot of these small towns, here as well, church was the community, but church is disappearing. So when my father died, when I was 12, I was kind of, my mum was left with 4 kids. My brother was 6 months old. I was 12 with 2 in between. And in those days, you would have been taken into care. There was no social services, and you would have been taken away because my mum was, you know, a 1960s housewife, had never worked, you know, just ordinary kind of middle-class family. But the town came together, the village, so people came. They paid my school fees, they brought us food, they brought us clothing for 6 months, you know, till you could get back on your feet.
That's incredible.
But that's the way it was.
What I wondered, though, is, you know, you, Jamie Oliver, Mike Holmes, you know, Ty Pennington, it's as if these shows that were initially about remodeling rooms or kitchens or dinner plates have really gone to a completely different era. So reality shows went one way, which I think tend to show people losing and devalue community. These shows, which were reno shows in some sense, have gone to a completely different place. Why do you think that is?
You know, it's not that you're doing it because, oh, what can I do next? You're doing it because it's the progression of what you do. And yeah, it may only be decorating, but it's also part of people's lives. And like food is part of people's lives. So I thought, you know, why don't we highlight some of the great communities in this country and what they're doing? What I never expected was what we saw. And one of the shows we've done, I have to say, it sounds pathetic, but it changed my life. And this was about a community called North Preston. And it's going to make me cry because this is the oldest black community of this country. And I have to say, what I saw is a disgrace. And I will get involved in this country to help this community. This community have nothing. They don't have a sidewalk. They don't have a store. They don't have a bank. And they don't have a doctor. By the end of our show, a young man from Nigeria, a young doctor educated in this country, said, I will become the doctor of North Preston. I don't care if I never do another television show again. These people were incredible. They were the 85% unemployment rate, dumped at the end of a road. No cab will go in there, no ambulance. You pay for an ambulance. So somehow through a renovation project and the community coming together, these great people, somebody stepped up. You couldn't write this stuff and said, I'll do it.
But does that make you not just change your life, what do you learn about yourself?
I like people, you know. It's a very silly thing to say, but there's great people out there. You know, even the buggers are nice underneath, you know, and you give people somewhere to wallpaper. You know, it's putting people together. People are funny, they're amusing, and they do care. And they do care. And the hardest place was working in urban communities because they're so busy commuting and traveling that, you know, they're not seeing the big picture. And the big picture is your family and your community.
Well, and people, no matter who they are tender and vulnerable, and,
Yeah.
and often it's just about survival.
Yeah, you get them wallpapering, you'll see all that.
Wallpapering would make me crazy.
Well, they do,
No.
and you know that's the reality side. So you know you're trying to get these volunteers to do it, and you know we've sent this hero away, and the big twist of this show is I'm not doing it. The town is doing it. The community is coming together, stepping up to the plate to say thank you to that unsung hero. And these are heroes. They're not people who are coming back from the war or have jumped in a river to save a dog. Those are heroes in a different way. These are the people who are the glue of a community, the people that make the place we live a better place.
Who was your hero growing up?
My grandma.
How come?
Yeah. She lived in the south of France with all these men, and I lived in a very ordinary household in the north of England. And I couldn't wait to get out of this village. And my mum was just a normal mum, you know. But she was glamour, and we had no glamour up there. Glamour was having chips with your tea, you know. and she would roll in her fur coat, which she'd probably stolen, you know. And you know, and
I'd like your grandmother.
and you know, they gave you, you know, today everybody slapped on the back, and they were completely the opposite. My mother used to say, you know, you're not very pretty, all you've got is your brains. And my grandmother used to say, you're not very clever, all you've got is your looks. So it was like, I need help, you know. So they were these very, you know, she was this something where you could step out of your comfort zone. You could go and, you know, live somewhere else and have another life. And she did. She had my mother at 13, you know, and you know.
13?
Yeah. Yeah, and she was, the funny thing was she kept marrying, and this is so typical of people in the war. You know, I said, well, Granny, you know, did you have any regrets? She said, well, only one. She said, the second one, she said, no, the first one, she said, I kind of forgot. I said, what did you forget? She said, I forgot I married him. I said, how can you forget? But during the war, you know, you went off to war, you were young, you got married, and off these 15, 16, 17-year-old boys went, and then you went and married somebody else.
I think your grandmother was fantastic. You need to write a book about your grandmother.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
Tell me, I know this is actually a very serious question. I want to know what it means to someone when you become Oprah approved. Well, how did that affect who you, like, what you do and who you are?
Well, it's nice because, you know, even the dry cleaners, like, oh, you got respect from everybody. And, you know, it was, the first time I went on, it was, you know, they don't tell you. Their chairs were yellow in those days. And they don't tell you you're actually going to be sitting there because they know you'll never sleep. That comes back to the sleeping pills. So they don't tell you till the morning. So when I got there at 7 in the morning, the producer runs up and she says, you've got home base. So I said, we have that story in our country. You know, she says, no, home base means you are holding the show up, you're with Oprah. Because like you want to make sure that you don't get a doozy of a guest, you know, and people can write the best book or the best, you know, be really good at their craft. But if they're boring, it's not much fun for you. So they watch you for the day before while you do voiceovers and all this kind of stuff. And you know, I'm quite a confident person, but my knees would rock like this. And finally, she got hold of my leg and she said, "You're really irritating me now. You know, keep still." And it's fascinating to be there. And I think the most moving thing about being there was in the hallway of Harpo. They had these gigantic photographs, of Nelson Mandela in that hallway, who's her idol. And it's like he was there where you are and know that his appearance meant something to her. And so it's her also giving back and this constant circle of life of everybody giving to each other.
We do the same thing in our hallway with Gene Simmons and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah,
it's
so cool.
Very similar.
That's so cool, yeah.
Stick around. I want to talk about some myths about your home, and I want to know if she's ever designed anything that her kids were horrified from, and also gummy bears. Anthropology, rapid fire with Debbie. When we come back. Debbie Travis is hanging out. Rapid fire questions for Debbie. It's anthropology time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Your great-grandfather invented the gummy bear.
You didn't know that, did you?
What the hell?
Well, my father's factory made the machines for candies for companies like Cadbury's and Rowntree's and Mars when they were all separate companies. And yeah, my dad was an inventor. He was known as the mad scientist, and he made sweets. I mean, it's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And so my great-grandfather invented the gummy bear. Of course, there was no rights, or else I'd be very, very rich today.
Well, then what's the one thing that you hope the history books credit you for?
Being the granddaughter of the gummy bear.
What's the thing you missed the most about England when you first moved to Canada?
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Feng Shui, bullshit or the real deal?
Bullshit.
Really?
Please, are you really going to move your kitchen because it's bad feeling? I think sometimes, you know, I think it's more... I think that houses have a spirit. Houses have a history. Whether it's a 10-year-old house or a 100-year-old house, there's something there. And there are happy... I do believe there are happy houses and unhappy houses. There's something like, just... Something's not right.
So move the kitchen.
So move it. But I don't think Feng Shui. I mean, you know, you put a bit of...
Have you ever, because you're known for obviously being able to go into a room and change it, have you ever redecorated your house to a point where your kids look at you and just go, that's horrific, Mom, I'm not staying there?
You've got a camera in my house, haven't you?
Have you done that?
All the time. I mean, the thing is that when we were first starting out on the painted house, we would when there was no people in it, we would use rooms. So we often used my house. So their rooms, it was like, go and stay at your friends tonight, and then he'd come back and it'd be like a Barbie room or something. So one of my children actually wrote a letter to the newspaper. When he was sent to camp, about the fear of camp. But it wasn't the fear of most children going away from mummy for 2 weeks. It was the fear of what his mad mother would do. And he's like, I've had a cowboy theme, I've had a ballet theme, I've had the feather theme, you know, and oh my, you know. So it was always like, please. And they'd try and bar things and nail, you know, things onto the doors. You know, especially when they were teenagers, because I'd find stuff, you know.
Sure.
One of my kids, it was like, we took his bed out, and it was like, there could have been the Unabomber under there. And then you take, you know, the notice board off, and it's full of, you know, beer bottle caps and you know, so yeah, and the rest of you don't want us to talk about.
Which of your early jobs was more formative to help you become the woman you are today? Working on a Julio Iglesias video or dancing in a George Michael Wham video?
No, I think the worst job, yeah, I did all those, but the worst one, George came out to prison, by the way, this week, so I'm very pleased. No, the worst was, I actually worked in a shoe shop for a day, and got fired at 5 o'clock. It is the most... Always be nice to people in a shoe shop.
Have you ever had your kids overdose on gravel on a flight?
Oh, God, you know that? Oh, God, yeah. Well, my dad has a little apartment in Spain, which is like our Florida. You know, all Brits go to Spain to get out of the rain. So the children were very small, and I was very nervous about the flight. So a friend said, you know, there's this stuff in Canada called gravel for sickness. If you give them a little teaspoon, it makes them a little bit kind of dizzy. So, of course, I'm a bit heavy-handed. So we left the house, and I literally poured a bottle each down their throat. And as we got to the end of the road, they passed out. So we finally get to this house 24 hours later, and these kids, people were coming up to me and saying, what marvellous children you have, you know. And I wasn't sure if they were dead or not, but it was like, every so often I would shake them. So we got to this little town, and they never slept for a week. It was like they woke up like, da-dang, you know, and up and down at the beach in the dark at 3 in the morning. It was the worst holiday I ever had.
I can imagine.
So please don't do it.
The show is called All for One. It's a Sunday nights on CBC at 9 p.m. Check it out if you can. Good to see you. Thank you very much. All right, Sharbo.com is the website. Good to see you. We'll catch you next time.